turn lights.
Yeah, we had every kind of traffic situation going on.
One Palestinian woman in the House of Representatives, all up in this system, right? We need people who are humbled by community, who have served community, in order to come in and dismantle over 170 some years of a racist system built in the state of Colorado. It takes all of you. It takes all of you to make that happen. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna stop. I thank you for being here. I thank you for rising up. I thank you for your voices, right? I mean, this is where it all starts. But here's one thing before I go. I wanna be sure and say this, is that I understand the words Black Lives Matter, because no lives matter unless Black lives matter, right? I also understand too that missing and murdered Indigenous women lives matter, because no lives matter until their lives matter. I also understand too that Palestinian lives matter, that transgendered lives matter. Oh my goodness, the horrors that the transgender community is facing right now, right? They also face brutality too from the police, right? And the list goes on and on. But we all have a common enemy in that whole thing, right? In that whole macrocosm. The common enemy is the oppressive system. That's why our lives have to matter. It has to matter by dismantling the system and putting it back together, so that way our lives can matter. Stand with each other. Do not try to elevate your community over another. That's what we saw as the folly of the civil rights movement. We have to stand together at all times, because that common denominator is an oppressive system that was never built by us, but built to oppress us. Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Joe. Donnie! Is Donnie around? There he is. Paul Castaway's cousin, Donnie. Hello, everybody. It's good to see everyone here. Hello. Go to the camera. Hello, everybody. I am Paul Castaway's cousin. A lot of people don't know that. I'm just going to tell who Paul was, and I'm going to get into this. You know what I mean? Because I didn't know I was going to speak, but I'm just going to go from the heart. From the heart. Okay. Good. Paul was my older cousin. He was 22 when he adopted me and my family. We had some family problems at the time. We were dealing with some stuff, and he was the only family member that stuck up to the plate. You know, he kept telling me, stay out of trouble, do this, do that, and I did. You know, at one point I was bad, and I was reckless. I was a menace. I was really a menace to society. I was doing all types of dumb shit that I shouldn't be doing. Like, honestly, I shouldn't be here. But my cousin Paul kept me out of trouble, and he told me, just do you, and just represent who you are. So I never ever forgot about that, you know. But every time I come here, I hear all these families speaking, and it hurts because I know what they're going through. You know, I wanted revenge. You know, I really wanted to lock and load and go shoot some police. That's how I felt. But inside my head, you know, I was listening to my cousin, like, you know what? Don't do that. You know, you're better than that. You know what I mean? So just have a positive outlook. You know, when they started protesting, Jason and his family in the group, you know what I mean? Like, I wish I was there, but I was dealing with personal problems. Then when the George Floyd stuff popped off, you know, that, like, I was in a better spot. I was in a better place. I felt better. So I was like, you know what? I got to be out here because, you know, I didn't get a chance to do it my first time. So here I am. So I'm with the families that you guys lost somebody. I'm with you guys. I stand with you. I know what you guys are going through. So if you guys ever need anyone to talk to, I'm here. But I fucking hate this Denver police system and what the fuck they're doing to all of our families, because this shit is not cool. Mostly in Colorado, this shit is half the end. You know, my cousin, Paul's cousin Gabe, he's a big protester in Minnesota, you know, and he influenced me to come out here mostly. Most of my family and them influenced me. A lot of you guys influenced me. A lot of you guys, I see Janet, James, everybody, Red, Miles, there's so many names, you know what I mean? Brian, you know, and I love you guys and I appreciate it. You know, so if you guys ever need anyone to talk to, I'm here. You know, honestly, I really don't know what to say right now, but fuck 12 for one. You know, fuck 12. I'm tired of them killing all of us. I'm tired seeing all these mothers coming up here speaking and crying, because this shit has to fucking end, and it has to end now. So, I love everybody. Thank you guys for letting me talk. I will come over here and talk to you guys. If you guys feel free, you guys want to talk, I'm here. But I love you guys and one love.
You're amazing.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, Donnie. Hold the mic a little away. There. So we can hear you better.
I am a 12-year-old who will be attending shoot. When people look at me, they don't see a black male. Not yet, anyway. Not until I turn around the age of 14, I'll be perceived as an aggressor versus an aspiring scholar like I want to be. No one will notice that when I become older, I want to be a marine biologist, or that I want to be a human rights activist like my mom. All they will see is the color of my skin. No matter how dark or white the brown is in me, the brown will be the first thing that people will notice about me. I don't know if I'm prepared in life yet to change instantly from the cute kid you wave at while walking by to the dead black man by hands of police. I am now 11 years younger than Elijah McClain was when his life was taken by the hands of the Aurora police. Does that mean that I have to count down the days until Elijah is me? I did not know that I could be a victim of police brutality in Colorado. Me and my family are from the South. We moved to Colorado for the search of racial equality. I did not know my life was in danger just for being black in Colorado. Like the states that fly their Confederate flags proudly until I heard the name Elijah McClain. Then I heard the name of Devon Bailey. I heard the name of Joel Anthony. And I think, am I not safe? Being black in America is not safe anywhere for me. So every boy, girl, man, and woman who has a speck of color in their skin, safety is not guaranteed. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others? I ask you today, what are you doing for the man justice for Jesse Cedillo? What are you doing today that changes tomorrow? I did not fully understand what Black Lives Matter meant until I read Elijah McClain's story. It's not that we are not agreeing that all lives should matter. We're saying that all lives will not matter until Black Lives Matter too. We demand justice for Jesse Cedillo, Elijah McClain, and many others that have been victimized by police.
He doesn't mess up very often. He's so hard on himself, y'all.
we've been supporting. We saw the Jesse Cedillo family out in the crowd one day at a protest in Pueblo, Colorado for the Take It Down rally. I don't know if y'all know that Pueblo, Colorado still has the only standing Christopher Columbus statue in the state of Colorado. That's right. Pueblo, actually, Pueblo, Colorado established Christopher Columbus Day for the world. A lot of people don't understand that. So they've been out there fighting for the past 2 years, rain, sleet, or snow, and we met this family out there screaming out in the crowd, "Justice for Jesse." So we had to find out who Jesse Cedillo was. And when we found out who this sweet, loving, caring kid was and how much his family loved him, we could not stop the fight for justice for Jesse. I want y'all to go to Denver Westward and read the article that was just written, where it shows footage of the police placing a gun under Jesse Cedillo's dead body. When will they be held accountable? Property is never more important than life. Doesn't matter what you're doing, what you're stealing, what you're breaking, unless you are taking another human's life, your life should not ever be in threat of being taken. And that's why we fight for Jesse Cedillo. That's why we fight for his little niece, for his sisters, for his mama. Justice for Jesse and justice for everybody.
Justice for Jesse!
That's okay. Okay to mess up, buddy.
Say his name, Jesse Cedillo. Say his name.
Jesse Cedillo!
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 Jesse's mom's gonna go next.
Yay!
All the way from Pueblo.
Hello, my name is Lynette Fox Naranjo, and I am the mom of Jesse Cedillo. Jesse Cedillo was 20 years old. He had just turned 20 on February 28th of 2020, and 2 weeks later, I got a knock on my door at 2:30 in the afternoon from the coroners, not the police, not a victim's advocate, not any. It was the coroner. She knocked on the door, and she told me that my son was dead. And I had seen the video on Facebook that morning. Well, I clicked on it and then turned it off. Someone told me don't watch it. My daughter watched it and then went to work. So I knew instinctively that the cops had killed him, and I don't know why. I knew that there was a police killing in the area. I had told my husband that morning. They said stay out of the area. There was a police killing, another one. And when she knocked on my door, I said, the police killed him, didn't they? And she said, yeah. I got on Facebook to look at the video because I hadn't looked at it. And I didn't, even with the blur, because there was a blur showing that day, even with the blur, you could tell he was not charging the officers. And my son was scared to death. He rolled himself in a ball. I mean, I have gotten those videos. I have 3 body cams from the deputy who shot him and then 2 other deputies. There are still 10 other Pueblo Police Department officers that have not released body cams. I have videos from the neighbor. I have a Ring video that was taken, a Nest, that was taken from across the street, but for some reason it time-lapsed, and I can't figure out how to open it up all the way. The cops didn't do anything with it. They just said, oh, that's of no value to us because it won't open up. It's because the little bit that I did get to open up, you can clearly see he had no gun. You could clearly see he was up against the wall from the minute he got out with his hands up. He was actually doing this with his hands like this. He was covering his head from being shot, and that's what he was doing. He was covering himself. He was shot 5 times, but he was shot at 15. 10 of those shots went into the house that was behind him, which was an elderly lady that lived there. At least they could have given him, the deputy, a charge of reckless endangerment for that, like they did with Breonna Taylor when the cops were that. But nope, they didn't even talk about it, anything. I made the mistake, and that's something that a lot of us do, because we don't know, we've never had to deal with, somebody getting killed by police, and how do you act, what do you do? I mean, there honestly are steps that you should take that we've learned now since we've done it, but that you should take. Number one, you should always do your own independent autopsy done immediately. I had a lawyer by the second day. I called him and said, do you want to do an independent autopsy? Oh no, they do a good enough job. He was from here. He's no longer my attorney. I've actually gone through 3. Another one here just told us that they didn't think that we had a case for Jesse because Jesse had a gun and that he did not. I told him that. I told him that. I actually told him that on their review this morning. I wrote it on their review. I said, if you would have talked to me more instead of just assuming what you needed to, I could have told you everything that I found out, but you decided not to. When it comes to police killings, we end up having to become the investigators basically ourselves. I mean, we do. I mean, especially me and my daughter right here, Jaylyn, we have both investigated, tore the videos up. I mean, just did everything to try to find out what happened.
Police will fix themselves.
They will never fix themselves because they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
What did the governor's office tell us? That they thought that other people were investigating.
The governor's office did not know that each city investigated themselves. They assumed that, okay, if it's Pueblo, El Paso County is brought in to do their critical incident. But even that is not good enough. I mean, that's still because if you read through my son's reports, CBI went in, they went and interviewed people. When they interviewed people, every single question that they asked to somebody who had something positive to say about my son or a negative against the officer's rendition of what happened, they dismissed and they made excuses for. In fact, a woman had witnessed the whole thing. Her husband is the one who took the video. She was upstairs in the window watching it, and she said she saw nothing. She said that what they did to him was wrong, even if he had a gun. And they go, well, did you know would it change your mind if you knew what he did? And she goes, no. And they go, well, you want to know what he did? He carjacked somebody. And she goes, so because of a car, he deserved to die?
Property is never more valuable.
Exactly. And then he dismissed her as being emotional because she was pregnant. So that's what they did. That's what they did with the witnesses who were against what their narrative was. If you see, they did not interview anybody but the main officer until it happened March 14th. They did not interview anybody until July 29th. They gave them months and months and months to come up with their stories, and that's what they did for everybody. The only officer who gave a story, and that was 3 days later, was Deputy Alfonso. Everyone else didn't speak until, and that was only because I had a meeting with the DA in June, and I gave him all of the questions of everything that I was finding out and seeing, and he came up with answers for every single thing that I told him.
And now Alfonso is listed as a victim.
He was already listed as a victim, day one.
How do the police get listed as a victim? That's crazy.
Well, especially because he didn't threaten him, he didn't go after him, there was nothing there that he had done anything wrong to him.
He's actually going away from him.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly what he's doing. He's going away from him. I want to start, we need to talk about our loved ones, but I think that we also need to start talking about what we as citizens need to do if it happens to you. Because it could happen to you at any time. All it takes is one thing to happen and your loved one is gone and you're stuck there saying, okay, what do I do now? Because they lie from day one, they follow you around, they harass you, they turn your loved ones into monsters, So I had to hand out a paper that tells you what to do in the first 24 hours if you have a loved one killed by police. And since we can't, so they won't police themselves and they won't fix themselves, we have to learn how to handle them in more than just one way, and we have to learn how to handle them when it comes to what to do if it happens. Yeah. Yes, never agree. And if they tell you your loved one, died from police, don't you talk to them. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Don't talk to him. Because they will use everything you say against them. Yep, as a juvenile, my son is a victim of the system, period. At 13, I was a single mom. Their dad had passed away, and I went and asked for some help from DYS. He was getting in trouble at school and, smoking marijuana and doing some things like that. And I went to them because a friend of his parents told me, this program will help you and they won't take your kids and they do this and they do that. Well, they were wrong. He mouthed off to her, said he wouldn't quit smoking marijuana, and he said you can't make me. She said, watch. And she locked him into El Pueblo Boys Ranch. And I don't know if any of you know about El Pueblo Boys Ranch. El Pueblo Boys Ranch was a facility in Pueblo for decades. But when they closed it in 2017, they had 239 instances of abuse against the kids in that facility. My son, when he was in that facility, had a broken nose. He was kicked in the chest by a teacher. He was made to fight with other kids. And these are the things that I know about. I know there are so much things that he didn't tell me. That was the start of his involvement with the system. And from that point on, he became kind of like he wasn't a ward of the state until he got committed. But it was like a domino effect. Because he didn't do anything to break the law, and he got put in that place. He got out, and he broke a window, and he got put in another place. And then he got out, and he got put in. He got in trouble because he violated his probation, and he got committed for an assault on a PYC guard. I said, son, why did you do that? He said, Mom, he's evil. He don't care about the kids here, and he does some evil things. And I said, son, you can't do that. And he said, I know, Mom, but he was evil. He said he was evil. And it's just kind of funny how Jesse supposedly stole a car at PYC against a PYC guard when he had that same thing happen to him with getting committed for a PYC guard. And after he passed away, a PYC guard came onto a news station, and where we were commenting, back and forth with people. And he said, I was under Jesse in there. Jesse did da 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 da. And I said, can't you lose your job for that? You're not supposed to talk about juvenile records for one thing, and you're not supposed to talk about what happens to work. I worked for Family Dollar for 8 years, and we got in trouble if we did. There's a no talk, you have to watch what you say on the internet when you have a job. So I kind of got him fired from his job. Not here, he had moved on to Wyoming, so he thought it was okay to talk about my dead son like that. And that's about pretty much what everybody has done in Pueblo since he died. They've gone so far to say that I should have been sterilized. Yeah, they say that my daughters are on welfare. None of us is on welfare. They all raise their kids. They all have homes. They all take care of them, and they all help take care of their brother too. When they say it takes a village to raise a kid, when you have boys, it really does. It really does. And my son was the sweetest kid, and anything that you guys could read, if people say, he was this and he wasn't. Did he do some stupid shit? The only people that I see say stuff about him is No, the cops. You know, they're cops. No, anyone who's ever met him says, besides his coach. But when you lose somebody to police violence, it brings out a whole. I mean, you can't even describe it, huh, ladies? It's just. I mean, it's like, okay, it's bad enough that your family member is dead. You know, and then it's like 10 times worse that you know your family member was murdered. But to know that they were killed by law enforcement and that there is nothing that you could do about it, and that they are going to walk this earth every day basically next to you, and you can't do anything about it. It is excruciating. I mean, to go to a store and you see a sheriff's deputy, you get post-traumatic stress. You get a flashback. If you go down the street and just anything, and it's nothing that I would wish on anybody, but I would never not fight for my son. So I'll take everything and anything that I get from it to prove that my son deserved to live and his life mattered. And basically, that's it.
Let's give her a handful on that. Say his name, Justice Cedillo. Say his name.
Justice Cedillo.
Say his name.
Justice Cedillo.
Say his name.
Justice Cedillo.
Okay, before we have the next family speak, I just have a quick note I wanted to bring up. I'm from Georgia real quick. I moved up here 2.5 months ago, and as a lot of us may be familiar with, and some of us may not, 2.5 weeks ago, Garrett Rolfe, who killed Rashard Brooks, was reinstated to Atlanta Police Department. They haven't said whether he's getting paid or unpaid leave, so let's just be honest, we probably know it's paid leave, and he's getting back pay for it, so I'm pretty pissed off. So let me do one more real quick. Say his name, Rashard Brooks. Say his name.
Rashard Brooks.
Say his name.
Rashard Brooks.
Say his name.
Rashard Brooks.
Okay, we're gonna have another family come up and speak real quick. What was their name again, Desi? The Vivo? Vivo family.
Y'all gotta bear with me, it's the first time I've spoke. My name is Stephanie V. Hill, and I am the widow of Joshua V. Hill. Mic on? Yes. Can you hear me now? Yes. Again, I am Stephanie V. Hill, the widow of Joshua V. Hill. These are 2 of our 4 daughters. July 23rd, 2019, Josh was in mental crisis, and 3 officers locked him in a glass corridor and executed 44 rounds, 27 of which hit his body, 20 entered, 7 just grazed.
Wow.
Love you, Stephanie.
Hello? All right, sorry. Great job, Mom. All right, July 23rd, 2019, my father, Joshua V. Hill, was shot by Colorado Springs police officers Lucas Aragon, Cole Jones, and Mark Keller. Lucas Aragon shot another man 7 months later on my parents' anniversary, February 27th, 2020, and he shot another man 9 times in the chest and the face, Desmond Hayes, and he is still a working police officer who has pulled me over, who has harassed my family. You know, like 2 years ago, I spoke in front of people right after my father was killed, and you know, like I swore he was gonna have justice. I swore not another man was gonna be killed because my father was shot 20 times. He was shot from head to toe. He had a bullet enter his left eye, entering his brain, and he had a bullet entering his right toe. No, it's right. Anyway, he was literally shot head to toe. He did have a gun. He did have, you know, a history. But since when is it okay for cops to kill thugs, to kill our people, to kill people who have mental illness, to kill humans? Since when is it okay for a person that puts on a blue suit to be superhuman, to have superpowers, and to be exempt from the laws? I do not want another man, another person, another child, another mother to cry, another daughter mourn their dad. I want police violence to end. I want racism to end. It's time for a change. Thank you.
So these guys are ready to go. So you're going to move to the bottom of the steps and then continue down there if that's okay.
Let's go.
No, we'll take it. Okay. Hold on a moment, hold on.
Probably go down to like the second level.
Right here. You want to watch right here?
That way we get some good we can hear everybody speaking.
Okay, everyone, we're going to have all the protesters and the viewers, attendees, stand down here with me, and the speakers are going to be up on the first step. So, next, do we want to have
Page families.
the Page family? Okay. We're going to have the family of David Page speak next.
Run up there and get give me that. Run up there and get our sign. Hurry up.
I thought you guys just finished and roll one into the next. Oh well. Yeah. Up some side.
I love how we're all family. I know, yes.
Low on track.
You want to sit in your chair and watch? Other girls? The other girls? Yeah. Let's line them up. There we go. Y'all drive down Hamden. It's right off I-25. Go down and come to light. I got a surprise for you. Down Hamden on your way home. No way. Just exit Hamden. Go left. Go down to It'll take like 5 extra minutes. Okay, let's drive because it's so far.
Car that's got better ones.
guess this is interesting. And,
I'll put it on the left. Yep, if
I'm
y'all
gonna be
going
here all
back to
day.
the Pueblo, it's on the left.
I got a battery right now backing up.
Okay.
We got drinks.
We do too. We're on Hampton
whatever.
and
Be here in the house.
yeah.
Well, see, we're not technically, but I'm also Evans.
Okay.
We got tents.
Yeah, right there because I don't.
Can everybody hear me?
A little bit louder.
A little bit louder? Okay, I can be loud.
Just turn it up.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Wait.
My name is Christina Page. My son David Page was killed September 29th, 2019 in Monument, Colorado by El Paso County SWAT. He had recently learned that his son was stillborn and was in mental health crisis. That morning at about 8 o'clock, Officer Stewart from Monument PD showed up at his house for noise complaints. He was extremely upset. He didn't know how to handle his loss, and he was throwing things around in his house. Not necessarily a good decision, but not criminal. Should have been a civil matter between he and his landlord. When police arrived, when Officer Stewart arrived at 8 o'clock that morning, David said he was fine. He wasn't suicidal, he wasn't homicidal, he just needed a minute. He wanted to be left alone to grieve his son. Officer Stewart called me, told me what was going on, and I said, hey, let me send you a CBI report so you know who you're dealing with. He said, no. Last Christmas, when your son was in crisis, I rocked him in his bathroom. I know David. He'll be fine. If I need you, I'll call you. I know you're only 15 minutes away. At 11 o'clock, I got the second phone call. Officer Stewart had returned to the house. There had been no new call. He just wanted to check up on him. When he knocked on the door, David said, quote, get a warrant or get fucked, because he's my kid. The officer at that point asked if he was suicidal or homicidal again. David said, no, please leave me alone. I don't like you. You don't like me. Nothing good is going to come of this. Please leave. So we did. 3 o'clock that afternoon, from what we understand, the man who caused his son's stillbirth showed up at his house, wanting to pick a fight. David grabbed a broken BB gun and shot at him. Officer Stewart came back, and when David refused to speak with him, he called dispatch and reported that he needed SWAT because David had taken a hostage. He was alone in the house, and Stewart knew it. When SWAT showed up, they stood at the house on the north side of the apartment for 90 minutes in what I like to call a tailgate party. During that time, they never reached out to David. They never called me. They never used their bullhorns to speak David's name, to get his attention, to attempt contact. They had no interaction with my son in that 90 minutes. At 4:28, they pulled around to the south side of the apartment, and less than 90 seconds later, in full riot gear, from the turrets of a Bearcat, they shot my son from 35 yards away through a closed door 3 times.
Yeah.
They then sent in cameras to confirm he was dead. He was definitely dead. And after the cameras confirmed his death, they sent in double bang flash grenades and set the house on fire. I was standing half a block away trying to get to my son with my crisis team. I thought I was going to rescue somebody and stood around at the police station where my partner and I were unlawfully detained for almost 4 hours. They wouldn't confirm any details. They wouldn't tell me that he was involved. They certainly didn't tell me he was dead. I kept telling him I needed to leave, to go be with my mother, to go be with my family, to grieve, to not be surrounded by police officers who had just killed my child. About 6 o'clock that night, an hour and a half after the shooting, I asked to go get something to eat. I was going to drive over to Safeway, about 3 blocks away, and they said, no, we'll deliver pizza. Why don't you smoke a joint at the picnic table right there? And they directed me to smoke pot at the police station picnic table.
while I ate Domino's pizza they had delivered instead of letting my family leave to feed ourselves. At 7:29 that night, 3 hours after the shooting, the Gazette-Telegraph called me and asked for comment on my son's homicide. And still surrounded by police, that's how I was notified. As we tried to leave, the police surrounded our car. They wouldn't let us leave until I let them know that we were leaving one way or another and they could meet us at our house. We drove down, hung out at the house, where the detective showed up. Now, something you all need to know about El Paso County. We have something called the DFIT team, Deadly Force Investigation Team. What that means is that when there's a shooting, the highest ranking agency in the county of El Paso investigates. What that means for families like Stephanie Vigil and her daughters and myself is that when CSPD kills, El Paso County investigates. When El Paso County investigates or kills, CSPD investigates. So the very day that my son was killed, the police told me not to speak with the Vigil family because they wouldn't want to hear from me. Their investigation was too recent, and it was going to take 2 years for them to complete an investigation for either of our families since they both got killed at the same time. In the year and a half since his death, the police have done 4 o'clock in the morning welfare checks at my house, 20 minutes away from where they killed him. They justified his death because he had a broken BB gun that could have looked like an assault rifle. It was a handgun, by the way. They told me that I couldn't identify my son's body because parts of his skull had been removed to do deep toxicology. I said, that's okay. I want to see my son, put him back together. They said it'll cost you $8,000 out of my pocket, no payment plan. Well, they had just charged us $10,000 to clean up the mess. So I didn't have $8,000. Turns out, several months later, February 14th, 9 months after his death, a news reporter called me and said, honey, I want to give you a week after his autopsy's released for you to process. I said, no, honey, no problem. You've done us good. As soon as it's released, let me know and we'll sit and talk. She said it was released a week ago to the public. So I found my son's autopsy online. His skull hadn't been removed. All 3 bullets were retained within his body. There was no skull damage. In fact, the initial investigator didn't realize he had been shot in the face because it looked like a freckle. His skull was fully intact. They did toxicology through his urine. There was no reason for me not to be able to say goodbye to my child. The officers in CSPD have harassed me, pulled me over at gunpoint 19 times in the first 21 days after he was killed. I'm registered, insured, and lawfully armed. They denied our victim's advocacy request for therapy for his 2 siblings, both younger than he. They denied an angry armed woman's request for therapy after they killed my child. They've pitted our families against each other. They've driven the tank that they shot him from down the streets of my house and thrown dead flowers on my yard. I now have a $3,000 security system at my house.
Fuck the police.
I don't have $3,000. Thank you. Fuck the police. I don't have $3,000 for a security system. I didn't have to do it because my neighbors. I didn't have to do it because I live in the hood. I had to do it to catch the cops who continue to harass, gang stalk, and intimidate my family. Today I'm standing on the steps where my father in 2004 spoke a week before a multi-agency task force also took his life. Because he stood on these steps, those agencies followed him, harassed him, investigated him, and found nothing wrong in his life that would warrant criminal charges. So instead, they set his house on fire and watched him burn. I swore then that I would stand up. But I knew if I spoke out and said that cops killed my father, nobody would believe me. Cops don't kill people. And if they do, we hear about it on the news, right? Maybe 5, 6 times. You have to remember, this is 2004. This was not May of 2020. And I promised I would be strong and speak out and be at the Capitol and testify and that sort of thing. And I never did because I was terrified for my children's safety. And now they've taken my oldest child. In a year and a half since, I've tried to reach out to a lot of families all over the country, bring us together. I've met hundreds of families all over this country. In fact, on my travels last summer, I met with Gabriel Eaglefeather's family in Minnesota. Sorry, Paul Castaway's family in Minnesota. I met with Gabriel Eaglefeather, his brother. Apologies. And he spoke at my son's angelversary, half a country away, in support of me. I know that if we come together, we can do this. A year ago, we introduced 217. It was a qualified immunity bill. What this does is ends qualified immunity in our state, which allows our families to see our day in court. It doesn't guarantee conviction. That's not what we want. But it allows us to go to civil court and have them stand. It calls for them to be accountable for the choices that they make, that if we made, we would be jailed for murder for. It also requires all of our officers here in Colorado to wear body cams. In my son's situation, there was no body cam. El Paso County SWAT has made the tactical decision to not allow body cams on their units, because then anybody from the public would be able to circumnavigate their less than lethal tactics. Now, the day they killed my 20-year-old autistic in crisis child, they were in a Bearcat. They were fully equipped with less than lethal methods. They chose instead to shoot him through the face.
They opened the body cams anyways.
I'm not concerned about their tactical advantage. So now in Colorado, we have to have body cams. The other thing it does is it requires them to file reports when there's civilian contact. Prior to this bill, if you're pulled over on the side of the road with a flat tire and an officer comes up and the two of you get into a verbal altercation because you just don't want his help today, and he kicks the shit out of your car and drives away, days later when you go to internal affairs, they may or may not have a record that you even had contact. Now, any contact an officer has with the public must be reported. I don't know that this is going to change anything. I don't think this is going to make them stop killing our children and our husbands. What it is going to do is take one more step towards accountability, so that when our families lose everything, we can have some semblance of accountability and maybe some peace. I will never get my son back. No amount of money will ever replace that hole in my heart. No amount of money will ever give me peace back. No amount of money will ever allow me to lay in my own bed at night and hear the neighbor's dog bark and wonder if it's SWAT kicking in my door today. No amount of money will give me the safety and security that they continue to strip us of. What it does, though, is it gives us a chance to appear in court and have our loved ones' voices heard. I also want to, if you could, real quick. This is my son, David Page. I started a nonprofit called Marley Foundation right after my son was murdered. I didn't want to believe that he was murdered. I didn't want my entire worldview to change. I wanted to believe that he had made some bad choices that day and grieve his bad choices as a mother. And any of you moms out here, you know that sometimes we have to grieve our son's bad choices. So I named Marley Foundation after my son's service animal, Marley. My mom wouldn't allow him to have a dog, so he had a turtle. And after SWAT killed my child, they backed their tank over Marley and squished him. So I lost my grandson, my son, and my son's service animal the same day. It must be coincidence that dead turtles keep showing up on my yard. We started Marley Foundation so that we can be the voice for those of us who can't speak. So I encourage you, I've met families across this country while I was traveling totally by accident who had lost a child or a husband to police and had never met anybody else who had ever gone through that. And these are people that I met at the hair salon, at the Come and Go, all over the country. So I know that there are people out there who have lost their loved ones to police, who have never had someone to stand with them. And I'm telling you now, if you need somebody to stand with you, the Marley Mamas are here, and we will stand with you wherever you are. All we ask is that you stand with us as well. I also want to give a shout out. Paige Pierce was killed April 9th of this year, just 44 days ago, in Delta County. If you could keep her in your thoughts and prayers. And one of our loved ones, Sandra Meyer, she wasn't able to be here today. Her husband, Sean Billinger, was killed in January of 2019 in Fort Lupton. We also heard Paul Castaway's name. We know other names, Devon Bailey. There's so many. And I want you to think about this number real quick. Since 2000, January 1st of 2000, we have documented and verified more than 20,000 police homicides. That's 5.8 a day. A couple years ago, most of us would hear about 5.8 a year. That's 365 times what our awareness was. I don't know what you guys can do to help Jesse Cedillo's family get justice, or Timmy Henley's family, or Josh Vihill's family, or David Page's family. I don't know, because quite frankly, folks, Vihill's and I are running out of time.
Same here.
January 22nd of this year, the clock runs out for the Vihills. September 28th, the day before David was killed, his clock runs out. At that point, our federal government tells us that we no longer have the right to get justice for our murdered husband and children. I don't know what you can do to change that. I don't expect that as much as I fight, I can change that in the next couple months. But what we need you to do is continue to stand with us, share our loved ones' stories, get their pictures out there, link to your pages, show it on social media, put their stories out there so that at least people remember their names.
And for everyone to know that this is Colorado. This is all of the people here in Colorado.
Yeah, this is just Colorado.
This is Colorado. So just think, we don't hear about those. Nobody knows about it.
That's the last thing. I'll turn really quick and then I'll close. We all see the names in the media. We all see the big ticket names, the ones that get the fancy attorneys and have all the media come down, and people are protesting and rioting in the streets, getting millions of dollars on GoFundMe. And I'm happy for those families. I'm glad they have support. I don't want to take anything away from them ever. My son's GoFundMe, $5. I couldn't even cash it out because the fees would have been too expensive. I didn't have any help with his memorial. I didn't have anybody marching in the streets. Stephanie did. Stephanie and I marched in the streets.
I got your back. I got your back.
Stephanie and I have been together since about day 90, I think. After we realized the cops were trying to manipulate us, we really hooked up together. We only live a few miles away from each other. So we regularly tried to go down and march and protest for each other and stand by each other. But we don't have crowds of hundreds and thousands showing up for us. We don't have people bringing out the media for us. We don't have the news covering our stories. So we have to count on our community members. We have to count on you guys who are walking by and may not even know who we are and hear our loved ones' stories and decide to take up a cause.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening and being here with us. But we have to count on you. We can't count on people in New York to cover our stories. We can't count on people in Minneapolis to keep our children's names on their tongues. They've got too many there in Minneapolis. We have to count on our community members. So I want you to know, thank you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for standing here with us today. But please remember us when you leave. We have to carry this, whether we're wearing these shirts or not. These faces are burned into our souls, not just the faces of our own loved ones. I have nightmares about Josh and Timmy and dreams about Jesse. We know each other's loved ones now. We know their stories, and we grieve for each of our loved ones. We have 20,000 people to grieve for, folks. Please don't forget our names when you leave. Look up the stories, snap the QR codes, take pictures. Please share them. You guys are our only hope, especially when we're looking at statute of limitations.
And then if you just tell one person, if each person just tells one person.
Treat it like a good restaurant, folks. You go to a good restaurant and you want to share that. My son was good. Josh Weaver was a good man. Timmy Henley was a good man. Jesse Cedillo was a good man. Please share them. Write reviews. Talk about it on Google. Talk about it on Facebook. Share their names. Please, please keep standing with us. A lot of days, the only thing we have to keep going is looking to our left and right and seeing that you guys are still here. So, again, my son was David Jackson Page, killed in Monument in El Paso County, Colorado. So, thank you all. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Say his name, David Page. Say
David
his name.
Page. David Page.
Say his name.
David Page.
Say his name.
David Page.
Say his name.
David Page.
Cedric Vicks was killed last Friday on 1st and Perry. 9 officers shot him. They don't even know how many bullets hit him within 30 seconds. She's going to speak for Cedric Vicks.
Okay, my name is Helen Geroni, and I just want to say, we are the power here. Power belongs to the people. I'm here because I care. You're here because you care. Cedric Vicks, I am going to be his voice today because there's no one else here. I have a little pamphlet for you to call. You gotta believe you have the power. You call your elected officials. You tell them, never again should a young boy, 22 years old, be shot and executed with over 30 shots within 5 to 10 seconds. Now, what does that tell you? Is that justice? I don't care what this young boy did. Cops are not the judge. They are not the executioners. They need to know what they're going to do. And you know who's going to tell them? Us. We're the only ones who can tell them. So come and get a piece of this paper. Make sure, and I do want to say, I am just so heartbroken to see so many people that are killed by the police. The reason I'm here is because he was shot in my neighborhood. I'm a school teacher, and I can imagine these young kids out there being shot, and he didn't die till he got to the hospital. He felt each bullet penetrating his body. Now, how cruel is that? So please, come and get a piece of paper. Make sure that we do something. Every day, do something. We're the power. If we don't believe that, we're going to lose. Those cops are going to walk all over us. They're going to kill our children. We are the power.
They're committing genocide of our children.
Thank
They're
you.
killing all of our kids. It doesn't matter any race.
Say his name, Cedric Vicks. Say his name.
Cedric Vicks.
Say his name.
Cedric Vicks.
Say his name.
Cedric Vicks.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No justice.
No peace.
No racist.
Police.
Okay, so last March of 2020, I got sent a text from a friend in Austin, and it was of Jesse Cedillo. And I couldn't figure out why did I not hear about this in Colorado at all. His name has not been said enough. It's just brutal, but his sister Jalen's gonna speak. Thank you for being here.
Hi everyone. Me and my brother were 18 months apart. We were really close. And I have a lot to say, but I don't know how to say it. So
I first want to speak on about our right to bear arms. You all understand Colorado is a right to bear arms, right? But not when you're black or brown, right? When you see a brown person or a brown woman or a brown man or a black man holding a gun, we initially think they are a threat. But they probably have the right to bear that arm. So why are we shooting them when they have a gun too, right? We're allowed to bear arms. We're allowed to have a gun on our hip. But yet, my brother was told he had a gun and was still killed for it. It's the state of Colorado. Why are we being killed for things that we are allowed to have, first off? If my brother had a gun, I don't care if he had one or not. Secondly,
He didn't though.
he did not have a gun. Secondly,
Oh my God.
he was literally laid there to die for 9 hours. So when we found out about 7 hours later when the thing was posted online, and I didn't know it was my brother, so I didn't have a biased opinion on it. But when I saw it, I felt disgusted, and I thought it was a child. It looked so tiny. The visual of the person running away was so little. I thought it was a kid. So when I found out it was my brother, wow, those emotions went through my entire body. Like, I can't even explain to you guys. I was in the back at my work. I had to work open to close that day. I got up here and I wanted to say so much, but now I don't know what to say. I also want to speak out about being a Latina woman in this country as 2021. I feel like I don't have a voice, and my voice doesn't matter because I'm not dark enough and I'm not white enough. I'm in the middle of everyone. In my whole life, I feel like I haven't fitted in because my skin color and the color of my hair and the color of my eyes and the music I like to listen to and the music and the food that I was raised on. And it's disgusting that our land here is supposed to be ours and we're treated like it's never been. And I'm sick of walking out of my house every day and being afraid to leave. And this is true life. I'm afraid to leave my house. I've had multiple officers come by my house and wave at me while I'm taking my daughter out her car seat. That's scary. I had to move my homes since my brother died. I moved close to my sister, so I feel safe. I love everyone and I appreciate you all for being here. You probably have never seen me before, but I want to change the world, so hopefully you see me again. Justice for Jesse and justice for all. Viva la raza, by the way.
Viva la raza. Say his name, Jesse Cedillo. Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
We're on stolen land, built by stolen hands. We're on stolen land, stolen hands.
Okay, this is Adam Fung. He's running for city council in Aurora, and he's a good man. And he's here to speak.
Excuse me for a little. Today, I'm not here as a candidate. I'm here to stand in solidarity with the families that have been victims to police brutality. Every story I heard today breaks my heart. And the only thing we can do is change the narrative and change this racist system of policing that was built on rounding up slaves. And it starts with each and every one of you. And we cannot give up. Inside of each and every one of you is the power to make changes into our world, our society. I stand here today with Jesse Cedillo, David Page, Josh Vigil, Timmy, Cedric, Antonio Blackbear, Paul Castaway, and Cedric Vicks. Did I forget anyone else? And now, I would like to say, we cannot take this anymore. It starts with each and every one of you, and we can make that change. We have to abolish the police and rebuild it from the ground up, now. And we cannot have more people die because of this racist system that was built in our society. No longer will black and brown communities live in fear. And we have a long ways to go. MLK says he had a dream, and we must continue that dream. So please, be that change and go out there and bring on positive changes. Thank you.
No good cops in a racist system. No good cops in a racist system. No good cops in a racist system.
No good cops in a racist system.
No good cops in a racist system.
No good cops in a racist system.
No good cops in a racist system.
No good cops in a racist system.
Is there anybody else that would like to speak? Thank you to all the families. If you want to hydrate, there's a lot of water, Gatorade, and Cliff Bars and stuff up there. And then we'll just do a march to the police station. Okay, so 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes.
We'll go in 10 minutes?
10 minutes is water, Gatorade, and snacks up at the top. Feel free to go grab some Kind bars, vegan-friendly protein bars, water, and Gatorade.
Grab a cake, and whoever else wants it, you guys want something over there to drink? I wanted to see you so nervous. It's okay. I didn't realize I sound so
Okay.
That is obviously great.
Yeah, no, I didn't miss it. I'll send you a copy of it too. Okay. Okay.
Take care of Jack. He's good.
Okay.
He's been doing
I'll
this
send
way
you a
long.
copy of it too.
Thank you.
Fox, you might be able to catch it on Crash Landing's channel.
Probably.
There's a lot to learn today, people on my channel. Thank you for joining. Today we're standing
Sad as a nursing college
Standing for people.
graduate. He was somber, sad, with his mask on, just marked, because he was tired, working all night, late shifts as a nurse, trying to treat COVID-19 patients without the proper PPP. This was the time he graduated when the pandemic just first hit. He had to use the garbage bags just to protect himself from COVID. But that didn't stop him. He kept going. He went ahead and got featured on a lot of media outlets. Good Morning America. He told his story how nurses don't have proper PPE, how we're not getting treatments for the COVID-19 patients. But it was because of his young, energetic movement, his caring spirit that made a difference in the health professions and treatments for COVID-19 patients. Why am I telling you this story? Because I want to tell you that the youth, the AAPI youth, is here. Their voice is not shut down. Just because we're known to be the model minority That doesn't mean our voice has to be silenced. As an educator, I often hear about AAPI history education, but it lacks the depth of that education history, such as Malcolm X admired Gandhi for his resistance movement towards British India to gain independence. Then John Lewis, he also was shaped by Gandhi as a civil rights activist. Then, during the civil rights movement, they passed. It was the civil rights leaders, through their activism, that the AAPI population grew through the Immigration and Naturalization Act of 1965. That's right, it paved the doorway. But where's the solidarity with Blacks and Asians? That's why we need to be for Black Lives Matter. If we learned this part of our history, then we would have known. We would have let it divide us. We would have let us unite us. And let's not forget that the concentration camp, the Japanese concentration camp, if we knew from early on they were local. And all the
We'll be back. We are going to march with the previous group for a little bit. See their protests. If you want to continue learning what's going on at the Capitol, check out Cut the Plastic on YouTube or Carol Funk on Facebook. They'll be streaming at the Capitol. There's a couple events, so we're going to split up. The reason why we choose the Capitol, or the reason why people choose the Capitol, is there's a lot of traffic that drives by, right? They can see what's going on. Tons of foot traffic. There's a bus station right across the way as well, if you're not aware of what's going on downtown. Still fencing. They're still renting that fence, so homeless people can't sleep there. And that's been here since probably about a year now.
Do me a favor and raise your hand if you're going to be marching with us. All right.
Sorry.
What happened to Ricky? Well, eventually we'll find out. Hey, that's
Alright, y'all. Time to march. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. No justice, no peace. Fuck them racist ass police. Let's gather up at the bottom of the steps here. Get everyone organized so we can stay tight.
So if you're new to my channel, you'll see my protest videos are going to be a little bit different than others. My intention is to keep people safe. So I will be filming different things than what you normally expect.
have a banner too, don't we? What's your name again? Sorry, Malin? You have a banner, don't you? Oh, okay. That'll work. That's okay. We can use that for now if you want to get somebody else to carry with you. If you want to help lead the dance as well, feel free to come up front.
The first race riot was actually done in Chinatown. Just down the street. It was a huge flourishing area. Chinatown was. And I had mentioned this about a month ago, you know, when
So we're waiting on one marshal for there tonight.
March here in a bit.
It was a horrible act. There's actually a huge plaque over there. There's a plaque in the southeast corner of 20th Street.
It may rain during our protest.
Also, one thing I found out about Colorado's history is there's
That's how I do it. No good cops in a racist system. Oh, okay.
Fuck Biden too!
They don't give a fuck about you. Say his name, Jesse Cedillo. Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name,
Jesse Cedillo.
Say his name.
Jesse Cedillo.
Alright, y'all, I'm gonna start with, I'm gonna say their names. Feel free to shout out whatever name comes to mind or comes to heart for you. Say their name.
Elijah McClain.
Say their name.
Elijah McClain.
Say their name.
Elijah McClain.
Say their name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say their name.
Breonna Taylor.
Say their name.
Josh Beal.
Say their name.
Josh Beal.
Say their name.
Elijah McClain.
Say their name.
Philando Castillo.
Say their name.
Philando Castillo.
Say their name. Alright, y'all, we're crossing over here. Let's stay tight. Oh, let's slow it down, Desi. We got people in the back.
Thank you.
Alright. Cross. No justice! No peace! No justice!
No peace.
No justice!
No peace.
The cops and the Klan go hand in hand.
Shut it down!
If we don't get it, shut it down!
Burn it down! Burn it down! Burn it down!
Oh, Jim Crow, no Jim Crow, this racist system has to go. Oh, Jim Crow, no Jim Crow,
This racist system has to go.
oh, Jim Crow, no Jim Crow. Got to go.
Oh, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow.
This racist system has to go.
Oh, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow.
The racist system has to go.
Oh, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow.
This racist system has to go.
Oh, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow.
This racist system has to go.
Oh, Jim Crow, new Jim Crow.
This racist system has to go.
10, 11, 13. I don't fuck with 12 and they don't fuck with me. 10, 11, 13. I don't fuck with 12 and they don't fuck with me. 10, 11, 13. I don't fuck with 12 and they don't fuck with me. 10, 11, 13. I don't fuck with 12 and they don't fuck with me. 10, 11, 13. I don't fuck with 12 and they don't fuck with me. 10, 11, 13. I don't fuck with 12 and they don't fuck with me. 10, 11, 13. 10, 11, 13.
This is stolen land.
Built by stolen hands.
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 This is stolen land.
Built by stolen hands. Built by stolen hands.
This is stolen land.
Built by stolen hands.
Happy Fuck the Cops Day! Indigenous land! Indigenous land!
Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Indigenous land! Turtle Island is what the United States is really supposed to be called, and no one knew that. Turtle Island is our native land, and that's the United States.
You are 2.84 kilometers. Oh, that's right. You're Latin America, and you're white. You're white, and you're black, and you're population. How's it go?
They know that there's an appropriate way to use them. Our street! Our street! Our street! Our street! Our street! Our street! Our street!
Sorry if I'm dropping a little bit. These are all
Whose street? Our street! Our street! Our street!
thank you.
Our street! 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 Our street!
Thank you.
Our street!